The only liberation I think about is come up around a little less. I think that's the idea.
Something about Maharajji, and for those of us who haven't been able to experience him in physical form, but still so deeply feel his presence and his guidance, we can't even imagine how it must have been like for you to kind of so if you can just share a sense of what it was like to kind of feel his presence, that would be lovely.
Well, I actually felt his presence before I came to India. Yeah, when I met Ramdas for the first time in America. He had met Maharajji previously. He hadn't spent much time with him because around Maharajji, time doesn't exist. So you don't. Once he enters your heart, he's always there. Yeah, but of course, it's up to us to remember to look. But he's always there. And so when I came to India and met Maharajji, and I remember actually it was, at first I got very confused because I walked into the room where he was, and there was this body wrapped up in a blanket, and I thought, wait a minute, because I've been feeling him everywhere all the time, like vast as the sky, And now there was this body with this blanket wrapped in this blanket. I thought, wait a minute, how does it all fit in there? I don't understand. My mind started to go crazy. And then he must have done something because I immediately cooled out. And then, of course, I got very attached to his body, and I didn't want to be anywhere else. So that was a problem. The feeling that we had, all of us, was that we finally were home again. It was that simple. It wasn't cosmic. It wasn't even what you would call spiritual in a way. I mean, it was just, we were home. We were exactly where we needed to be, where we always wanted to be. Now we made it. This is it. And there's a funny story. Many years later, a couple came back to India that had met there in those days with Maharajji. And they hadn't been to India for maybe 20 years after he left the body, or whatever he did. They came and we were chanting Hanuman Chalisa at Maharajji's temple in Kenchi. And I noticed the woman standing over by the tucket on the steps, that place. That's where we used to be with him most of the time. And she was just standing there. And I go, whoa, something's going on over there. Well, I wonder what that is. So after we finished chanting, she came over to me and she said, Krishna Das, I think you're one of the only people here who could understand what I'm going to tell you. I said, what? She said, just now I was standing on the steps looking at the tucket. And this is exactly where I used to stand in those days when I would look at him. I was standing in the same place, and I remembered standing there 20 years ago, and I remembered thinking at that time, I'm home. I finally made it. I'll always be right here. Yeah. Then she just said, what happened? What happened? He used to tease us. He used to say, transfer ho jayega. I'll transfer you. And we'd say, don't do that. And he'd laugh. But then, of course, he did. He transferred us. He brought us there. I remember just last time I was there, I heard a story that I never heard before. Me, Danny Goleman, and Jim Litton, Ramesh Radas, we came to India together. And we were the first of a group from Ramdas that came. That we thought. But when we got there, there was a guy, another couple named Frank and Jan, and who I never saw after that, but they were there already, I think. And somebody told me this time, the Maharaj said, I could have called millions. I could have called anyone, but I called Frank first. And I went, wow. You know, I mean, he never talked about himself like I did this, I did that, you know, because he wasn't deluded by the sense of a separate self. There was no me. But every once in a while he would say something about something that happened. And then you go, oh my goodness, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, well, he took agency. I called Frank first. He called Frank first. Frank was the first one. He wanted that, you know. So anyway, so with this woman, she said, "What happened? I was right where I was supposed to be. What happened?" It was very interesting. I always felt like we were all on this train of our lives, and the train was stopping in different stations, and we stayed on. Then one time we looked out the window, and there was Maharajji. So we all ran off the train to be with him. And we saw him, and then somehow we were put back on that train the rest of our lives. But it was all different because now we knew him. That's the difference. I mean, your life doesn't necessarily. It's not that everything all of a sudden gets easy, you know.
Right. Yeah.
The difference is that he's with you now. You know that he's with you, and before he was always with you, but you didn't know. Now you know, and that changes everything.
And I think what's beautiful is I'm guessing everybody who walks down those steps, crosses that bridge, must be feeling that exact same thing. So regardless of who it is who walks in, I mean, in some form or the other.
Yeah, if he wants them to. I remember standing kind of in the back of the group one day, and the buses used to go up to Almora so one day some people came off the bus, some Westerners, and I was standing next to this one guy right in the back, and he looked at me and said, "Is that Maharajji?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, guy says, "He's really ugly, isn't he?" And I just went, "What? What?" And then he left, you know? And I thought, oh my goodness, you know, it's like, because for us, all the beauty in the universe was wrapped up in that blanket. I mean, you could not take your eyes off of him. Your eyes didn't want to leave. They didn't want to go anywhere else.
You know, music has always been such a big part of your life since, you were from your childhood days. But how did that evolve through the years? Especially once you sort of walked the spiritual path. Of course, you didn't walk in awareness earlier, but then once you saw Maharajji, it was, you felt him. How did music then evolve in your life?
We started chanting because he liked it, and we recognized that he would call us to sing, and so we get to spend more time with him. That was our only motivation. It wasn't spiritual in any way. It was just it wasn't a practice. We wanted to be with him, and this was what got us there. So, and then he left the body or disappeared in 1973, and he had sent me back to America already in March 1973, and I didn't start singing with people until 1994. 21 years. I'm very stubborn. And I was so lost without that body. You know, I couldn't find that love anywhere. How do you find that, you know? So, but then one day I walked from one room to the other, and I was struck by this lightning bolt. And I understood immediately that if I did not chant with people, and it was with people, that I would never be able to clean out the dark shadows in my own heart. And I saw clearly there was this unresolved stuff was where all the suffering was coming from. And this was the only thing I could do to save myself. So it took a little while. But once you know something, you know something. You know, you can pretend you don't know, but you know. So it took me a little while to get with the program, and then I just started chanting with people, and the Jivamukti Yoga Center in New York, and it just happened by itself. You know, there was no plan. I was just singing to save my own heart. You know, not to become famous or anything like that. It just one thing happened after the other. It was all his doing. In fact, Siddhima said many years later. Siddhima said to me, said when you know that he had made me the pujari of the Durga temple in Kenchi.
Yes.
And because the first three pujaris were stealing the money from the donation boxes. So he said, my pujari won't steal. And so he put me there. So Siddhima once told me that when Maharajji did that and asked me to distribute the charanamrit from the puja, he created the whole Leela, this whole Leela, at that time. I mean, for him, there's no time, you know. Hanumanji's Trikala Vesham, he's the dweller in the three times. No, it's all now for Maharaj. It's all. But from our point of view, Siddhima said, at that moment when he did that, he created all this whole thing, me running around the world doing this. And she said, you're still distributing the Charanamrit in the form of the name. I'm just going along for the ride. What do I have to do with it, you know? I just do the best I can to show up and keep my body healthy, and the rest is up to him.
I think it's the bhakti, you know, that sort of has brought you, I mean, to do what you're doing every day of your life. Do you ever think about, you know, through bhakti, through devotion, do you think about liberation or mukti, or what are your thoughts on that? Like, have you ever given that a thought?
You know, the Pakka Vaishnavas say, "Oh, we don't care about liberation. We just want to be with Krishna.
Yeah.
You know, want to be with, you know." And then on the other side, there's the sadhakas who talk about liberation and nirvana, and Ramana Maharshi said that what a bhakta experiences on the path to liberation, a jnani experiences after liberation. So it's the same, you know, it's just, it looks different. But you asked me, you know, the only liberation I think about is trying to mope around a little less. I think that's the idea. You know?
One day at a time.
Yeah, one breath at a time. Yeah,
Breath at a time.
but it's not really relevant. I mean, I've been around this long enough to kind of understand that.
Yeah.
Like Maharaj used to say, sub-ek, all paths, many names, many forms, all one.
Yeah.
All paths lead to the same place. And this is, you know, I read other things, and I enjoy hearing all kinds of teachings and taking all. But my path is this is not necessarily devotion as such, but it's surrender. The path is surrender, and you know, again, Ramana Maharshi said, when you surrender, you all the problems are the Lord's. You know, at that point, when you truly surrendered, when that happens, which happens only by grace anyway, but when that does happen, then the so-called separate self is revealed to be just a shadow. It's not real.
Yeah.
But it seems real to us. But once that surrender happens, or the liberation from the ego happens, then you know, it's his problem, not ours. You know, our problem is to just remember him. Our work, our path is to remember that love and to try to remain in that love and that presence as much as possible. And for me, the chanting is the most powerful part of that.
At this point in time, you know, as you mentioned, there are so many different paths, and of course, there are also a lot more teachers. There are a lot more teachings, and social media, talking so much about it, and of course, people are trying. They're trying to sort of find their path, and for somebody who's just starting out, it can be a little overwhelming, or it can be a little, sort of confusing as to what to choose, and how to approach, even walking or even trying to take a step on the spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Would you have some sort of guidance, or something for them, for all of us who are seekers, trying our best to sort of find our path in this really overwhelming space?
The longing that we experience to find that's actually the saving grace in the first place.
Yeah.
Without that longing, you're not looking for anything, nor do you even have a clue that anything exists to find. So the question is, the situation is to get more in touch with that longing and follow our own hearts. And we might wind up in situations that turn out not to be the best. But if we listen to our hearts, then that's all we have to do to know to go somewhere else. One should never give up their own sense of what's right for themselves. I don't think Maharajji never told us what to do. He didn't tell me to sing. He didn't tell me to go around the world. I had to do that. I had to find out what works for me. And any guru who's going to any supposed guru who's going to tell you that I know more than you and I know better than you what's good for you, you should run away as fast as you can, unless your heart tells you that this is really right. And okay, so then you're there. But then 3 weeks later, your heart tells you, wait a minute, this is not right. Or a year later. So then you go. The whole thing is to listen to your heart and to trust yourself. Trust what you're feeling. To learn to trust ourselves is the most important thing. Where does everything happen? Over there? In that person? No, it's all happening in me. And if I don't trust myself, I won't even trust the good stuff. So one has to overcome a lot of negative programming, that we get from our emotions, our lives, everything in our lives, to really begin to honor our own feelings in our own hearts and what we're longing for.
Don't you think that, trusting yourself is probably the hardest thing for us humans to do, because we're so tuned into either listening to somebody who has more experience, but not following maybe what our heart is telling us to do, and fear somewhere of sort of plays its own role here. Like, don't you think trusting is really tough?
I think it's one of the key things, but there's a million things that are the most difficult. Anything you try to do is the most difficult. So, but yeah, I think in this time when people are so used to looking outside for everything, for inspiration and for that learning to pull back in and get in touch with one's real feelings, deeper feelings, is definitely super important. It's a big thing. And another thing, one time in Christmas time, 1972, me and this friend of mine had trailed Maharajji down to Mumbai.
Yeah.
And a long story, but anyway, finally he found us. And so one day I was sitting with him for many hours in this apartment of the daughter of one of his devotees. And all of a sudden he sits up on the bed. He's been lying on the bed. He sits up, looks at me, he says, "Courage is a really big thing. Courage is a really, really important thing." And I went like, what's going to happen, And the devotee there, the Indian guy, says, "Baba, but God takes care of his devotees." Maharajji shot him a look and looked back at me and said, "Courage is a really big thing." So, wow. There have been times when I just had the vaguest memory of that moment, which was just enough to get me through some difficult situations. Well, courage is a really big thing. There's one thing is to get in touch with your heart, with your longing, with what's important to you, and the next thing is to go after it, go get it, in spite of the fact that everybody's telling you all kinds of things about it.
Wow. In this journey of seeking, at least when you're starting on, it feels like there are almost like a divide between what your worldly life is and what your inner spiritual life is. And of course, tradition and wisdom has told us that it's all one. And but how do you kind of try and integrate this into your daily life, where life kind of becomes a reflection of your spiritual life?
That's kind of like asking a 2-year-old to drive a big truck.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to do that. No possibility. We're just babies. But if we can calm our minds a little bit and open our hearts a little bit and try to do what we can to try to stay in that presence, our lives will transform themselves. It's not up to us to change our lives. It's up to us to take responsibility for where our consciousness sits. We have to keep coming back. We have, many years after Maharajji disappeared, like I told you, Maharaj used to say, he used to look at us and said, "I have the keys to the mind." He said, "I could turn your minds against me," and he would laugh. So I said to Ma, "Ma, Maharajji said that he has the keys to the mind. So to me, that means I'm where he put me and where he puts me every minute of every day. I'm where I'm supposed to be because he's put me here. He has the keys to the mind." And so I said, "So what is it all his doing? Is it all his grace, or is my effort required?" This is the famous question, right? Grace or effort, right? She looked at me and she said, "Krishnadas, it's all grace, but you have to act like it isn't." Right? You're trying to cross the street in Delhi, right? Do you just close your eyes and walk, or do you look? Do you look to see who's aiming at you? What car is trying to run you over? So it's all grace, done deal. There's nothing ever happened, nothing ever will happen. There's only one of us. There's only ever been one of us. We don't know that.
Yeah.
So that's where our effort is required. Our effort is that this also gets taken over by our neurosis really quickly, by our self-hatred. We get really stuck in trying to make a version of ourselves we could like, which is just more ego, more stuff. So our effort means to keep remembering, to come back to the moment, to come back to the presence, to come back to the Guru, to come back to your own heart. Siddhima said to me, "Krishna, in 40 years, not once did Maharajji ask me to meditate. He told me to serve, and remember God, but never. He said the more subtle states of consciousness will come automatically when you're ready, when the heart is purified, and we're purified through seva and through japa and through remembering. It's not up to us to make that happen. It's up to us to remove the covering. It's all covered up inside of us." And that's the Hanuman Chalisa. You take the lotus, the pollen dust from the lotus feet of the Guru, which is what? Consciousness, pure love, pure being, to clean the mirror of the heart. Because when we look out, we're actually looking in a mirror. Everything we see, we're only seeing our version of it. Our karmas are like a projector, and we're looking at that, and we think it's real. We think I think you are who you look like, and you know. No, we're only seeing our version. And that's because of the dust on our heart, all our stuff. The anger, greed, selfishness, fear, shame, all that stuff, that's the dust, all our attachments. So our job is to try to clean that stuff off by bringing ourselves back again and again to that presence. And it looks like we're doing something even to us, but not to them. They know what's going on. But to us, we don't know that. And so effort is required.
And I think the same, I mean, the effort that we say, and also, you know, you spoke about the different emotions that we sort of experience in this human body. You know, there are relationships that we live in because we live in a community. And of course, you know, as Ramana Maharshi also said, somebody asked him, how do I treat others? And he said, there is no other. While we know there is no other, we just know it intellectually, but we're not able to reflect it in our day-to-day lives. And that's where, you know, the whole drama of life sort of takes shape. Our spiritual teachings are telling us, and you know, hoping we learn how to surrender, the inner freedom, the joy, the bliss, all of those things. But how do you think that, you know, we can navigate through these relationships that we have to live in, because we're a part of this, you know, sort of web that we're placed into. But of course, also work on or look at detachment at the same time. I mean, it seems complex, but
It's very simple. It's very simple. Like that old saint said, treat other people the way you want to be treated. What more do you have to do than that? First of all, to be able to do that, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's where our effort comes in.
correct.
That's where we have to clean our hearts of selfishness and jealousy and anger and fear and all that stuff. It's just so we can see the God in everyone, just so we can actually treat other people the way we would like to be treated. Who are you going to hurt? You're going to be a bad. If there's only one of us, if you hurt one person, you're hurting yourself. Would you be bad to your foot? You know? No. But we don't. That's here now. But just try to see everybody. Not even to see everybody. That's manipulation. Simply try to treat other people the way you want to be treated. That's not a. It's not a mystery. It's not. It's not. You don't need to be initiated in that. You don't need to be sitting cross-legged for 20 hours a day to do that. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, then you have to find out why. Why do I hate this person? What does this person show me about me? What does this person make me feel? You know, so it's only, all of that's in us. All that stuff is in us. And we need to take responsibility for that. If we want to ever get where we want to go and be who we be with him all the time.
Yeah.
Coming to your kirtans and what we've all experienced, of course, when you chant and in front of a large audience, everybody's sort of experiencing it in their own way, right? And we see it, like the thousands of people, each of them kind of feeling it in their own way. Can you give us a glimpse of what you are feeling at that moment when you're chanting? Because there are times that when we look at the stage and it almost feels like you're not even there in a way, and
You're right. That's right. So if I'm not there, how can I tell you what I feel? It's not my job to even know what I'm feeling. I just keep singing. Anything that pulls me away from the sound of the name, I just let it go. I don't write it down. I don't notice. At the third verse of the Om Namah Shivaya, I was thinking about coming home and watching a murder mystery. No, I don't think about that.
Yeah.
It's not my job. My job is to pay attention to what I'm doing. And it's not the job of anybody who's singing with me or doing practice to be noticing what they're experiencing, because that's just more ego stroking. You're stroking yourself. You know, when you chant, your only job is to pay attention to the sound of the name. Whatever you're experiencing, who cares? Do you care? Why would you care? It's going to change in in a quarter of a second anyway. You can't hold on to it anyway. Might as well stay with the name, which is coming from that place within us that is always here. They're coming from a deeper reality. So by constantly coming back to the sound, to the feeling, and we're also training ourselves to break that attachment to our thoughts and to thin out the glue that holds us to all the things we believe about ourselves and about the world. Because we believe everything we think.
Yeah.
Which is the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
You know, everything. We just believe it automatically. We don't even think about it.
Yeah.
We don't even notice. Everything, you know, yeah, it's a beautiful day. Well, it might be raining over there, but it's a beautiful day. Do you think everywhere? No. We believe everything we think as if it's ultimate reality.
Yeah.
Which is true, which is what they call delusion. It's delusion. Meanwhile, you just keep doing your practice and you keep trying to treat other people the way you want to be treated, and everything will be okay. Maybe.
But this surrender that you know, that you always have been talking about, I'm sure that took a lot of effort, or you know, to stay in that space, because
No, it just took a lot of suffering, that's all.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
The effort is, you know, let's put it this way. So you're chanting, right? And you're having a good time, you're feeling good, you're singing, you're right there. And then you notice you haven't been paying attention, right? It happens a million times a second if you're really paying attention. So how did that happen that you noticed that you weren't paying attention? You didn't do that. You were gone. We were gone. And then all of a sudden, oh, right? Now, we know that nothing can happen without a cause. Every effect has a cause, and every effect becomes a cause later. So if we woke up, if we noticed something, then we must have planted a seed of noticing before, because only the kind of seed you plant, that's what grows. If you plant weeds, weeds grow. Plant flowers, flowers grow. So you're sitting there and you're chanting and you recognize you haven't been paying attention. You must have planted a seed somewhere in some life of paying attention, or that you couldn't ever come back. Most people that in this world are not here ever for a second in a whole lifetime. They're born, they grow and they die, and they're never here for a second. And this is what can truly break your heart. So when that moment happens that you notice, that's grace. That's karma. That's your good karma showing up. Then you just come back to the sound of the name. That's it. It's not our responsibility to make anything happen. It's not our responsibility to generate bliss. How are we going to do that? Where is it? Nobody taught me that. You know, what they taught me was Ram Ram, Ram Nam, do that. They didn't say do this, they said do that. And so Maharajji said again, Ram Nam karne se sab pura ho jate hai. From going on repeating these names, everything is accomplished. What more do we need to know? Now, that being said, he said that 50 years ago. Do I really believe it even now? You know, to the extent that I believe it, that's how much practice I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 2 minutes a day of practice I do, that's how much I believe what he said. And I have to live with that. I just don't have the karmas to just jump in 100%. I don't know why. I get busy doing other things. So accepting ourselves the way we are is a really big thing. And then from that point, trying to do something, trying to remember.
Wow.
And the more practice you do, the less you care about how you feel.
Yeah.
Because it isn't about you in the first place. We think it's about me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do this practice. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to find God. I'm going to be a good devotee. I'm going to surrender. We think like that, but really, it's not about me at all. And the more practice you do, the less you even think about yourself. And the less time you wind up spending in negative states of mind, but you don't notice. Because the negativity, the noticing, the evaluation is part of the negativity, part of the judging, part of the limiting. You know.
Yeah.
Called giving up. In New York, we just say "fuck it." That's what we say. That's our surrender in New York. Fuck it, I'm out of here.
I think it's the same here. I don't think that's.
I know how to say that in Hindi too, but I won't do it. Maharajji said it 1,000,000 times in Hindi. Oh, he was so. Oh, the way he teased his devotees. I mean, they would just go.
Oh,
Like
that's
this.
something we haven't read in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had the dirtiest mouth in the 3 worlds. But it was all love, all love, all love.
Also, we're living in a time which is marked by so much of uncertainty, fear, and unrest world over. Every day we're listening to it from different parts of the world, and which sort of feels so beyond our individual control. Like, is there anything that we can do about it? So
The way you want to be treated. Instead of spreading negativity, you spread acceptance or kindness, maybe. And we can't let our hearts be destroyed by what's going on out there. If we do that, then what good are we to anybody? Forget about ourselves, but how could we help another person if we can't even help ourselves? We can help ourselves by trying to take care of our own hearts and recognize that we can do is do the best we can with our lives as they are. Yeah, if someday you get elected king of the universe, maybe you'll be able to change things. But right now, we can't even clean the king's horse's stables.
yeah,
So we ought to deal with reality, which is that on one hand, we're powerless. On the other hand, we have tremendous amount of power, but we have to find out where that power is inside of us. And that's our true nature. It's the love that lives within us as who and what we really are. If we don't live in that, how can we help another person? All we're seeing out there is the minds of all the beings. Nobody's doing this to us. We're doing it to ourselves. Because people can't take care of themselves. People want to kill and steal and destroy because they think they need to do that. And unfortunately, that leads to just more of it. So more destruction, more pain, more suffering. But people don't recognize that. And most people don't even have an opportunity to do anything. Their whole community has been bombed and shot and destroyed, and now there's refugees in another country with no food and no place to go. How do they start to think about peace and love and kindness? It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It becomes almost impossible. They're trying to survive, trying to get food to eat. So whatever we can do in the outside world, we should do. But whatever we do, we have to make sure that we've done what we can do for ourselves also, which is how to take care of our own hearts. And then if you have food, you can give it to somebody. If you don't have food, what can you do? But everybody has something they can do at some point. Point is, we're so obsessed with our own, with how am I now? How am I now? We don't want to take a chance. We don't want to expose ourselves to the possibility that we won't be getting what we want every second of every day, when we want it, the way we want it. You know, it's so, okay, but if we don't notice that, then that's very bad. If we notice it, that's the beginning of loosening up.
Yeah.
We have to notice these things, otherwise they just keep pushing us around.
Yeah. I think that awareness is just the beginning.
It's the beginning, middle, and end, actually. The whole thing is paying attention, getting here. If you're here, you can make real decisions. You can, they say Maharajji had no icha of his own, that when he got up and walked across the courtyard, there was no sense of I'm getting up and going across the courtyard. Everything he did, he was Ram doing through him, everything. There was nobody in there deciding and thinking about things. But every once in a while, when he would say something about himself, that's why it's so powerful when you hear something like some divine reality, I forget what it's called in Hindi. Yeah. That story about the guy who had a small school and the government was trying to close it.
Close it down.
Because somebody had spread some rumors about it. So he's sitting in the room with Maharajji. One by one, everybody sent away. Maharaj says, what? So the guy says, Baba, they're going to close the school. Nay, the government will lose its case. And then the guy says to him, Baba, you're just saying that to make me feel good. Maharajji said, what I'm saying, I would shout before the masses or something like that. I have the power. No one can go against my word. I have the power to raise the lowly and lower, and bring the mighty down. No, nothing, whoa, like really, my goodness, And he never talked. Very rarely do you hear anything like that about him. But when something like that does pop out, when he says that to help somebody, give them the strength and the faith, it's so powerful.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
I think each of the stories, even in the Miracle of Love, the book, is just so powerful. You feel like, you are having his darshan. Every time you read a story, you feel he's around. He's talking to you through the story that's appeared in front of you on that day. So I think that's just the beauty of his love. Yeah.
Have you read Dada's books? Tawari family, they were. One time he was a great yogi and came to the temple one day and he started yelling at Maharajji from across the courtyard. Why did you drag me here? I was happy at home. I had no intention to come. Why did you drag me? Maharajji goes, I dragged no one. But for 83 lifetimes we've been together. It had to happen.
Wow.
Yes, you read this.
Yeah, it had to happen.
Like for us right now, it's feeling that grace through your voice, through your kirtans, and of course all the stories that we listen to. And that's what I think gets us by. I think the different simple challenges that we face in everyday life, it's those little things that we keep listening and hearing and allows us to get through each day. So thank you so much for sharing all of this with us.
This is reading about him, hearing about him. This is satsang. That's he said, when you think of me, I'm there.
Yes.
He said that. So he doesn't lie about those things.
Yeah.
He lied about other things like, I'm just going, I'll be out on, I'm just coming, I'll come back. 3 months later, you don't know where he is,
Wow.
Those things he lied, but not about the real stuff.